Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the meeting of the Richmond City Council for Monday, November 24th, 2025 to order. May I have a motion on the minutes?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor, post carried. Madam Clerk, agenda additions or deletions?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have one agenda addition. This is on for page CNCL4. This is for item 7, the Community Events Program 2026, and that the following wording be added to the end of recommendation 2, provided that any contingency funds are expended consistent with the staff memo from the Program Manager of Events dated November 20th, titled City Signature and Community Events Program 2026 Budget Additional Information.
May I have a motion on the agenda with that change? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So the first item is the Sports Wall of Fame induction ceremony, and I'll come around for that. Whoa. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you here tonight. We are making an induction ceremony for the Richmond Sports Wall of Fame. This Wall of Fame was initiated in 2015 as a way to celebrate our most distinguished Richmond sports personnel. It recognizes individuals and teams who have attained a high level of achievement and contributed to sport in 8 different categories: athlete, master's athlete, builder, coach, official, pioneer, special achievement, and finally, team. It also provides an opportunity to celebrate Richmond's rich history of sport while we recognize the outstanding contributions of the inductees to the community. Today's inductees, a builder and an athlete, join an esteemed group of 75 individuals and teams that have previously been inducted. So at the Richmond Olympic Oval, you can visit the Richmond Sports Wall of Fame and accompanying digital kiosks as part of the History of Sport in Richmond exhibit. So I would like to acknowledge the Sports Wall of Fame nomination committee who worked very hard in screening the various nominations. They're chaired by Rick Henderson, who we will hear from in a few minutes, joined by our council representative, Councillor Andy Hobbs, and 2 members of the Richmond Sports Council, Bob Jackson and Stuart Corrigal. So I'd first of all like to call upon Rick Henderson, Chair of the Richmond Sports Wall of Fame Nomination Committee, to come forward and say a few words. Rick.
Thanks. What you left for me now. Your Worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I am, as you are aware now, a member of the committee, the Richmond Sports Wall of Fame Committee. It's an interesting concept, and you've heard about the concept, but it's the community recognizing the stellar contributions of certain individuals leading towards the development of sports and sports groups, sports generally, in the community in a lasting way. It has an interesting process. Don't worry, don't panic. It's not going to be a lot of process. Really, the process is City Council makes the rules and the standards. The committee reduces that down to the application against nominations that are made by the public. The results of the review by the committee are reported to City Council, and that's all of the people who are nominated. So the results are passed on. The city, as is right and proper, makes the decision on the nominees, or excuse me, the inductees. So the decision, once made by the city, becomes something that could have been just some of us, but now becomes all of us, because council has done it. So anyway, we end up having council deciding on a number of inductees. And how does it recognize those inductees in a lasting way? Well, a wall is a pretty lasting way. It's very conceptual and very stimulating. You put names on a wall and they're going to last time immemorial, as long as that wall lasts. It's wonderful. Kiosks as well have some of the information so families can go poke grandpa on the face and say, this is what he did. He wasn't worth much, but there he is right now. And it's all very important. It's all extremely important because the honor bestowed by the city through its council is displayed permanently for the memory of the community. And it will always be that way. So the final selection is made after quite an arduous process. You've heard enough process to last you, I know, but it takes a while. It takes the nomination, takes the support, further information, gathering, review, debate, sometimes argument, and then submission. And once again, council does whatever magic they do in their back room to decide which of the nominees are going to be selected. So the inductees tonight should be, their families should be proud, and their friends should be proud of what they've achieved. They're now part of a fabric that keeps on developing in the community, a sports fabric. So congratulations. Thank you. I can still do whatever else.
You can understand that out of so many worthy nominations, it's always very difficult to select inductees. And we would like to thank everyone who took the time to submit a nomination. For each induction, I'll introduce the inductee and accepting family member, and then we'll have a picture. After both have been presented, and there's two of them, members of council will join us for a group photo. So the first category is that of builder. An inductee in this category is a Richmond resident with a strong connection to the city through long-term success and a proven legacy of contributions to sport. We have one inductee in this category tonight named Bruce Allison. Bruce Allison was a well-respected builder of amateur hockey in Richmond and in BC for almost 3 decades. His contributions were only cut short by his untimely death from cancer at the age of 61. Some of his accomplishments include he was the founder of the Gulf of Georgia Minor Hockey Association and later the Seafair Minor Hockey Association. In 1972, he was the original owner and founder of the Richmond Sockeyes. He then served in various roles within local, provincial, and national hockey associations, where he was recognized for his leadership excellence and exemplary service. Some of his roles included with the Pacific Coast Amateur Hockey Association. He served as the division manager for 20 years, and he was the vice president from 1977 to 1980. Then with BC Hockey, he served as the first and second vice president, then as president from 1985 to 1988. He then served as director of Hockey Canada from 1985 to 1988, and he was also the president from 1988 until his untimely death in 1990 of the BC Junior A Hockey League. So here to accept the award for Bruce Allison is his son, Jim. Please give him a round of applause. Now, the second category is that of athlete. An inductee in this category is a Richmond resident with a strong connection to the city through training or participating on a Richmond-based team. This athlete must have an extremely high level of achievement in sport, including contributions to the Richmond sports community. So we have one inductee in this category tonight, Raymond Sawada. Raymond Sawada was born and raised in Richmond, and he started his hockey career playing for the Richmond Minor Hockey. Then he went on with the Richmond Sockeyes and ultimately went to Cornell University in New York. In 2004, Ray reached the pinnacle of many young hockey players' dreams by being drafted in the second round of the NHL draft. He also played hockey internationally in Finland, Ireland, and Japan. To honor Ray's passion, teamwork, and perseverance, both on and off the ice, the annual Play Like Ray Challenge was established in 2024. That's a hockey tournament that is played at Minoru Arena, where Ray learned to skate as a young boy. Now, there's a couple of notable facts about Ray's career. When he reached the NHL, he was named team captain for the rookie camp team by the Dallas Stars in 2004. And he scored his first NHL goal. Imagine this, he scored his first NHL goal in his NHL debut, on his first shift, which also happened to be on his 24th birthday. Well, that was a big day, huh? And an interesting fact is that Ray was the main motion capture actor for Entertainment Arts NHL video game, acting as 75% of the skaters in the game. And for his community impact, Ray was also a coach for the Richmond Ravens Female Hockey Association for over 5 years. In 2023, Ray's life was tragically cut short, passing away at the age of 38. So here to accept the award for Raymond Sawada are his parents, Regina and Jack Sawada, as well as his wife, Nicole. We'll ask them to come forward. So, for all of you who are here and interested in these awards, for both inductees' families and their friends particularly, we'll have a professional photographer over at the Richmond Sports Wall of Fame at the Richmond Olympic Oval. And the photographer will be taking photographs from 8 o'clock tonight until 9 o'clock this evening, where the inductees' plaques have been mounted on the Wall of Fame. And that's the plaque right there, and that will be up by the time anyone arrives. And I also want to give you a reminder that the 2026 nominations are open until the end of this year, till the end of December. And you can visit the Richmond Sports Wall of Fame website if you would like to get more information. So I want to just close by saying thank you to all of you for supporting and celebrating the legacies of this year's Wall of Fame inductees. There's a common theme. All inductees worked hard and gave back to the community for the benefit of sport in Richmond, and in this way, all have made a significant difference in our community. To the inductees' families, we offer our congratulations. Your loved ones have made remarkable impacts to Richmond through their achievements and their careers. So I'm going to ask the inductees to come forward again, and for all of council to join me, and we're going to have a group photograph. Okay, with that, may we have a motion to resolve in the committee of the whole to hear delegations on items on the agenda? All those in favor, opposed, carried. There are a number of speakers who have pre-registered, so we'll take them first. First of all, we have a number, well, the pre-registered ones are all on number 9, which is the Stevenson Lions Manor. We have Dan Levitt, BC Seniors Advocate. Is he here? Please come forward, sir. Have a seat there and introduce yourself, and you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Dan Levitt, BC Seniors Advocate. I want to acknowledge we're in the territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to Mayor and Council tonight and express my strong support for the Richmond Lions Manor Fentiman redevelopment project. One of the key tasks of my office is to monitor and analyze senior services, track new and emerging issues, and make recommendations to government to improve supports, services, and programs for older people. Healthcare, including long-term care, is one of the areas we focus on. And it's an area we hear about often from seniors, families, and service providers. We know the vast majority of seniors want to age at home. However, many will require the 24-hour support and nursing services available in publicly subsidized long-term care homes. Unfortunately, more and more seniors and their families tell us they're finding it difficult to access long-term care. Their stories are supported by the data we've received from the health authorities and from the Ministry of Health, showing that wait times and wait lists are increasing. This is especially troubling because we are at the beginning of a rapid increase in the seniors population in our province as the baby boomers become older seniors and start to rely more heavily on public services to support aging. Over the past 10 years, the wait list for long-term care in British Columbia has ballooned, and the number has risen from 2,400 people 10 years ago to over 7,000 in our province. That's an increase of 200%. The provincial average wait times has grown by 98% over the past 7 years, from approximately 5 months now on average to approximately 10 months. Expansion projects like this one are essential to increasing demand and to ensure our most vulnerable seniors can enjoy a high quality of life in a caring and comfortable environment. Before becoming BC Seniors Advocate, I worked for over 30 years in nonprofit long-term care homes in the Lower Mainland. I've always felt as that a campus of care model, which is proposed in this project, is the gold standard of seniors living. Being able to remain in the same place with friends and staff that you've grown to know over the years is the ideal situation. In addition, this project is close to local senior services in Steveston, which is convenient for older adults to access the supports they need, and align with Richmond's designation as an age-friendly community. Having a central location for senior services also helps older people engage in the community and avoid loneliness and isolation, which are major health risks for seniors. My office is focused on helping government prepare for the rapidly increasing seniors population that will take place over the next 10 years. But I also want to acknowledge, while the provincial government is a key element, we all have a role to play to help people age in place in communities and neighborhoods where they call home. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here tonight. I hope this project will continue to progress with your support tonight. Thank you.
Okay, hang on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to have any applause tonight, okay? No. There's one way to communicate with us. That is you can raise your hand when I ask for it, and you can come on down here and we'll give you 5 minutes. You can say whatever's on your mind, but we're not going to have applause, okay? We have a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you very much for those very interesting words. It's obviously a big issue, and I'm glad that you're speaking to it. But I didn't know that up to a 10-month wait list. What happens to those people who can't be at home because their care is too much is needed? Where do they go? What happens to them?
Thank you for the question. So the average is 10 months currently, and it's longer. And for people who have a spouse or a child, an adult child usually, who often is a senior themselves, they will get support at home, and they might be able to age in place where they live while they're waiting. For those who don't, they're at intolerable risk, and they may end up being admitted into the long-term care system through acute care, which ends up putting pressure on emergency rooms, on parts of the hospital where they designate an area for those seniors called alternate levels of care, and they may not get placed in the preferred choice nearby home. So single seniors are certainly more at risk of that happening than if you have a family member who's supporting you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. The next speaker will be Donna Sargent. We'll ask you to come forward. And that's what my list says, Donna Sargent. And then after that will be Joanne. Do you have two of you? By all means. And after that will be Joanne Tate from the VCH, if you could be ready to go. Ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here with my colleague Donna Sargent. We're on the board of directors for the Maple Seniors Residence in Steveston, which is for my name is Sharon Gill, sorry. And we, Maples is for independent living. We are here because we hear concerns from our staff, our residents, their families, our families about the need. You've just heard from Dan Levitt the numbers. Ours, we don't have that kind of number data, but we have the heart data. Okay, we have the heart data. We all know how hard it is to take care of somebody when you're not necessarily that healthy yourself. So we are here because we want to make sure that this project goes forward. If you've had a chance to look at it, it has everything that any one of us would want for our family and for ourselves to be able to age in place with dignity and with care. We are hoping that you will support this and help us move this forward. We're very appreciative that the province has provided the support, Vancouver Coastal Health, and now Richmond. So thank you very much. Donna?
Thank you. At the Maple Residence, Donna Sargent, thank you. At the Maple Residence, we currently have 10 residents waiting for long-term care bed, facing a wait list between 4 and 6 months. This number represents 10% of our building capacity. This is an enormous strain on the physical, mental, and financial well-being of these individuals, their families, caregivers, healthcare system, and our staff. The domino effect is overwhelming. Often individuals are in and out of hospitals, lining up in emergency beds and wards. When residents experience a medical decline, they are often hospitalized for extended periods of time because there is no appropriate long-term placement available. Once they are stable, they may be discharged back to the independent living, even though they may require 24-hour care. This again places a heavy burden on our staff. Over the past year, 20 Maple residents have waited for a long-term care bed, with another 19 waiting for assisted living. With an average of a 6-month wait list, they often have little say where they are eventually placed. It may be miles away from family, friends, familiar surroundings. A campus of care in Steveston, Richmond is critical to ensure that as needs change, there is a smooth transition from independent living to assisted living to long-term care. Our seniors want, need, and deserve the opportunity to age in place. And as the Maples Board, we have received a couple of presentations about this facility, and we are overwhelmingly in support of it. And when you see how 21st century care for seniors is enveloped into this project, it's just going to be a lighthouse for Steveston, for Richmond, and we are so very proud. The time to act is now. The demographic shift is here. The wait lists are growing. Our seniors cannot wait another year, another month, or another season. They deserve the right care in the right place at the right time, and you can see some of our seniors came again tonight to make sure that you knew that we are all together and they are advocating for their own place in this society, especially in a wonderful city like Richmond. Thank you very much.
We're running into technical difficulties, so thank you very much, both of you, for coming. You can see our screen looks the best, nice and black. Anyway, bear with us as we try and get that addressed. We'll now go to our next speaker, Joanne Tate for Vancouver Coastal Health. After that will be the Chief Project Officer for MAKE Projects, Darren Bryson. So you're together, I assume. Okay, so if Darren Bryson can be ready to go. Or is that you?
That's me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. My name is Joanne Tate. I serve as the Vice President for Vancouver Coastal Health, supporting Richmond community. And I am here as the executive sponsor for this development in Steveston, which some refer to as a village within a village. Very excitedly bringing 144 long-term care beds into Richmond, using a model that is innovative around the world, fashioned after the Dementia Village in De Hoogwe in the Netherlands, as well as taking concepts from leading practices around the world. We are quite excited to bring smaller households where individual residents will have their own bedroom, their own bathroom, the privacy they deserve, the autonomy they tell us they want and need, and the independence to be able to move freely, regardless of their dementia and their ability, around this campus. This campus will also have the amenities that are required for caregivers who are in the community, continuing to support their loved ones who don't have the ability to access those much-needed long-term care beds, as our seniors advocate just mentioned. The ability to have access to an adult day program where loved ones can come and be part of receiving services at the same time interacting with health professionals. And the ability to have overnight respite for caregivers who are caring for loved ones who are exhausted, who are burnt out, but need a little bit of a break. To be able to come into the care facility and use services like that. In addition to having services like our intergenerational daycare program. For us in Vancouver Coastal, we know that 40% of our staff actually commute from outside of the Vancouver Coastal Health geography. So for us to be able to retain, recruit, and attract health professionals and physicians to come to want to be part of Richmond community, it is important that we're also meeting some of their needs, which also includes the ability for them to have childcare on site. The one gap that we see across our health authority is the ability to support childcare for staff who work shifts and who sometimes need to pick up an extra shift at overtime, but no ability to have their children looked after. So for us to have amenities like this on the campus is really the future forward approach that we are taking. And then finally, our hospice. So we are planning for a 14-bed hospice, as we know the rate of seniors is growing significantly in Richmond at a faster rate than any other community in the province of BC. With that comes the need to have the expertise and the ability to have individuals supported right to the end of their life. Having a hospice not only attracts those professionals that have that level of expertise, but also eases the burden of suffering and the ability for us to support caregivers for their entire journey here in Richmond. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for giving me the time to speak here. My name's Darren Bryson. I'm with MAKE Projects, assigned by Vancouver Coastal to deliver the facility that will support the operations. I just wanted to have a couple of points here, just from the facilities perspective and the process in bringing this facility into existence. We've heard today and in the staff report about the project, how this project will respond to the critical and growing need in the community, and there's been lots of support that's been generated for that. But any delay that we can experience in getting this project into existence is just going to jeopardize our ability to respond to that critical and growing need. I just wanted to also say that the second point is just, we have gone through a lot of consultation to this point with the community. We've been responding. I think it's important to emphasize that we have been responding and listening and trying to incorporate the comments from the community so that the community impact that will be associated with this project is being reflected in its design. We have taken efforts to mitigate some of the issues associated with its massing on site and orientation on site to minimize the impact to the surrounding community. We have optimized a lot of the sight lines and setbacks. One of the things that we've heard about on a project like this is concerns around traffic, parking, and construction concerns during the implementation. We have hired the professionals in all cases to study those, and we have all of our parking. There will be no parking out on the street. All the parking will be underground, off-site, or off of the public property in there. All the parking that currently exists on the street will be maintained. And we feel that that's appropriate given that the nature of the facility, most people don't drive. So we'll have ample parking, and that the existing road networks will be able to support the additional traffic from the facility. And of course, during construction, we will abide by all construction bylaw requirements, noise requirements for mitigating dust and vibration. Wanted to also say that the community has been consulted, and we're moving quickly to market, but we're not moving so fast as to not take the proper steps in being able to respond. So it's not being rushed. It's following a comprehensive process and being able to develop the project. And adjustments are being made as we go, and will continue to do so to mitigate those impacts. Last point I wanted to make is just that we do need to keep momentum going on this project because of the stated need that's out there, that's real and acute and growing. And it's a priority of the province to fund projects that are ready to go and that are can meet the approval timelines. Richmond does have a very strong competition with other communities in the province. There's many communities that are looking for long-term care funding to build and respond to their needs in their communities, and the funding will go where the projects can be developed. One other point is that the building that was there, we're reinterpreting the context of it based on a new operating model that's world-class, we think is good for the community. What was there was a 7-story building with 144 beds. What we're responding with is a long-term care building with 144 beds. It is 8 stories, and that's because it will meet modern standards from everything from infection control to sustainability, climate resiliency, as well as the operational model that you've heard about here today that's so much in need.
All right.
So I'll just stop there, and thank you again for allowing me the time to speak.
Okay, we've got a couple questions. Councillor Heat.
Yes, a question for Ms. Tate. Can you assure me that Richmond residents will have priority on the wait list for this, or be priority placed in it?
So Richmond residents will abide by the current policy by the provincial government around long-term care wait lists. It's a priority access policy, and the needs of those in hospital, the needs of those in community that are community emergency, and lower on the priority or transfer lists will be abided to. We currently prioritize Richmond residents in Richmond, and we do a lot of work across our boundaries in Fraser Health in bringing Richmond residents back in addition to bringing Richmond residents and patients from Vancouver General Hospital, Lionsgate Hospital into Richmond. So that current process will continue in this because the policy, to my knowledge, isn't changing.
And that is good because, as you mentioned, you only have 146 beds, and those will be rapidly filled. And we know the need is with the Richmond people. So we're hoping, based on some of the other policies with the government, that if we're having this in Richmond for our people that have been here for multi-generations raising their families, that they have somewhere within their community to go. So hopefully that's instilled. Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I have to echo my colleague's comment about Richmond first, and for our people in Richmond. I have a quick question, through you with the Coastal Health. We're asking as well that the current Lions Manor stay the same, and is that a possibility to make sure that the current Lions Manor stays the same and we have 144 new beds in Richmond to increase the number available to everybody out here? Do you have that influence?
We have the ability to extend the lease. Our Vancouver Coastal Health Board 2 weeks ago extended the lease on that property until January 2029.
Excellent.
We can extend further, but will require further funding from the provincial government.
Well, we'll work on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. The old Lions Manor was in a state of disrepair, and so it had to be demolished in 2015. It's now 2025. Can you explain why it took 10 years to get here?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. The need for long-term care beds across this province has absolutely increased. The provincial government has gone through a fairly significant process in understanding what those standards should be, and at the same time mapping out what that demand curve is going to look like until 2050, at which point it's going to start to decrease once our baby boomer generation starts to no longer need access to long-term care beds. With the pandemic as well, within that 10-year span, we also learned a lot in terms of paying attention to long-term care, that we didn't pay attention to long-term care as a country, as the world turned to understand the services, the funding, the staffing levels, the level of care. And through that process, there has been a lot of advocacy required in terms of identifying who has the greatest priority in this province. We have done, with the support of this community, a phenomenal job in advocating against hundreds of projects in this province, and we were awarded funding from the provincial government as being one of those very few projects to receive this funding. So for us, we don't want to slow down in order for us to ensure that that funding is secured in Richmond, because we know these beds are needed. So unfortunately, the state of long-term care, what has been revealed in the last 10 years, has highlighted that there are many more long-term care homes that are also in similar need of repair and updating, but there isn't enough funding to go around for all of the need in the province.
All right, thank you very much, both of you. We'll excuse you now. And the last speaker who's pre-registered is Rochelle Garfinkel, a community member. Please come forward. Please have a seat, introduce yourself, and you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Rochelle Garfinkel. I live in Steveston South with my spouse, and we raised our children here. Our neighborhood is vibrant and full of life. Historic Steveston Village, Gary Point Park, Steveston Park, our library, excellent schools, and nearby senior residences like the Maples, Wisteria, as well as Austin Harris. We enjoyed the tennis courts, the off-leash dog park, and the beautiful waterfront paths. Every day we see children biking to school, seniors with walkers, families with strollers, and dog walkers, all sharing the same welcoming spaces. Thank you for your work in keeping Richmond safe diverse, and thriving. I walk past the proposed Lions Manor every day. I believe the neighborhood can comfortably support an 8-story building. The previous structure was already 7 stories, so this is a modest and reasonable increase that enables the added community amenities that we previously heard about. We're generally excited that the project includes a daycare, a hospice, and adult day programs. These services will strengthen our community across generations. I understand that neighbors adjacent to the development have concerns. It's natural to feel that way. But I'm confident that in time, they will see how deeply this project supports aging in place and enriches our neighborhood. We've seen this before. When Wisteria was proposed, my neighborhood property, many of us worried about sunlight and scale. Yet, thoughtful designs address those concerns. Today, Wisteria is a true community asset, supporting seniors who live independently and fitting seamlessly into the neighborhood. Its grounds have even enhanced the surrounding area. Just recently at the dog park, I met a woman who lives independently at Wisteria, while her husband, who has complex care needs, lives at Lions Manor on Bridgeport. This is a heartbreaking reminder of what happens when facilities are not located within our communities. Families are forced apart. Aging in place is essential. It's not just about remaining in one's home. It's about remaining in one's community, near familiar roots, family, services, and social connections. Lions Manor provides exactly that. On a personal note, because of a family situation, I've toured many long-term care facilities in Vancouver and Richmond. And I have to say, few offer the sense of community reflected in the Lions Manor's plans and location. Richmond will be proud to hold this project up as a model for other communities. Esteemed councillors, you have the power to make that happen. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I trust you will approve this project without delay.
Thank you very much. On that or any other item, are there any parties in the audience who wish to speak with us? Okay, we'll go to this gentleman here. Is there anyone else? Oh, okay, and that lady. Anyone after that? Okay, so 2 speakers and then we'll wrap her up. Yes, sir?
Just for the record, that's a great project, the Lions Manor, supported. But I'm not here to speak to that tonight.
You are?
Jerome Dickey. I'm speaking to item 15 on the agenda. Critical gaps in the motion on the Cowichan land claims. Mayor, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak. After reviewing both the motion and the committee discussion, it is clear the motion still suffers from significant gaps in clarity, strategy, and leadership. I want to highlight 5 areas that deserve council's attention before this becomes the basis of Richmond's public position.
Ma'am, you're the next speaker, right? Or you're not with him? We'll ask you to take your place, please. Just go back to a seat. Go ahead, sir.
One, the motion hinges on an undefined and an unenforceable word, mitigate. The city proposes writing to senior governments to mitigate the effects of the Cowichan ruling. Is it financial compensation? Is it mortgage protection? Is it legal insurance? Is it title guarantees? Is it property tax relief? Or is it simply monitoring the situation? Asking other governments to mitigate something without telling them what mitigation looks like is too vague to be meaningful. It invites symbolic responses, not real action. If council wants a specific form of mitigation, it must state it clearly. 2, staff confirmed that all relief or guarantees would have to be provided by the province, not by Richmond. During committee discussion, staff stated that any real relief or guarantees would ultimately need to be acted on by the province. This means Richmond is still taking no financial risk, offering no municipal programs, and contributing no resources of its own. Leadership requires more than asking other governments to do something. Residents expect clarity on what Richmond is prepared to do, not just what Richmond wants others to do. 3, one concrete suggestion, property tax deferment adds no municipal contribution. The amendment added a request that the province include affected properties in the provincial property tax deferment program. Let's be precise. That is a provincial program, administered and funded by the province. Richmond still collects every dollar of tax revenue. The city carries zero cost and zero risk. A tax deferral is not a contribution. It simply lets someone pay later. So even with this amendment, Richmond continues to propose a plan in which senior government shoulder all responsibility while the city puts in nothing of its own. If council truly believes in shared responsibility, then propose a 3-level government cost-sharing structure, even symbolically. That would be harder for other governments to ignore. 4, the motion unintentionally weakens negotiation pressure, the only process capable of resolving this. Staff said the motion would not interfere with discussions between the province and the Cowichan tribes. Procedurally, that may be true. Politically, it's not. When you signal to one side, landowners, that governments might buffer them from uncertainty, you reduce the urgency for governments to negotiate a timely settlement. Every Aboriginal title matter in BC is ultimately being resolved through negotiation, not the courts. Courts do not have timelines. Appeals can take years. Experienced mediators have resolved entrenched disputes quickly when pressure is balanced. This motion reduces that balance. Number 5, the 18-month stay applies only to Richmond and Canada-held Port Authority lands, not to private homeowners. Staff confirmed that the stay granted by Justice Young applies only to city-owned lands and federal lands managed by the Port Authority. Private homeowners have no similar clarity or protection. This makes it even more important that Richmond advocate for immediate, structured negotiations involving Canada, BC, and the Cowichan tribes. Residents deserve certainty, not years of legal ambiguity. Yet the motion avoids the one action that would truly help owners, calling for negotiations to begin now. In summary, none of this reduces uncertainty for residents, none of it accelerates a resolution, none of it addresses community fear of or misinformation, and none of it gives Richmond a meaningful role. Residents are not asking for more liaisoning, they're asking for leadership.
Sir,
Richmond leads to lead with
please
specifics.
finish up.
I'm finishing up, but I don't see a timer here. And nobody else has been cut off on here. Richmond needs to lead with specifics, not vague motions that make residents feel reassured while changing nothing on the ground.
Thank you very much. We will go to this lady over the end here. Please come forward. Yes,
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here tonight, Mayor and councillors. My name is Eva Cho, and I live in Richmond. I'm here today to support the application of rezoning of the Lions Manor Phantom Place. I think you have heard enough about all the professional expertise, knowledge, and statistics tonight. So here, I'm going to share with you stories. I'm a caregiver for my mother, who is now living in a long-term care home at Mineral Residence. I cannot tell you how important that is for my mom to have 24 hours care so that I don't have to care for her 24 hours for 7 days a week. And that really takes off some burden. Because as a caregiver, we always have the problem of facing burnt out. But tonight, I'm going to share with you the story from my aunt. My aunt, G, she came to Canada when she was a young woman at 20, and last month she just turned 90. So she has lived almost all her life here for 70 years. Several months ago, she had a stroke at home. And this is the second time within this 2 years she was rushed to the ER. But fortunately, with the advancement of our medicine, she recovered quite well. But she's living alone, and she's in a vulnerable situation like our Mr. Levitt has described. So I worry about her every day. She does not have community care at this moment. She only had a nurse going to her home every day in the morning to give her her medications. And she was told, and her family was told by the social worker, that she might have to wait for about 2 to 3 years or maybe more for a long-term care place. So when you are younger and healthy, 2 to 3 years doesn't sound a lot. But when you're 80, 90, and you have been suffering from severe conditions, like my aunt, she has lost most of her eyesight, her vision, and her hearing during the COVID years, and she's isolated in her home. But fortunately, she has a few friendly neighbors who would, visit her from time to time, but that's all she got. So she's, really hoping, but I don't know how many years she can wait for this place in the long-term care. So I really hope that you would support the Phantom Project and to approve their rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. All right, may I have a motion to rise and report? All those in favor, any opposed? That is carried. That brings us to the consent agenda, which includes the receipt of the committee minutes, the city signature and community events program for 2026, the application by Hayden Co. Holdings for a temporary commercial use permit on Rice Mill Road. Then we have a land use application for first reading. That's the one we've been talking about, Lions Manor. We have updating development permit area exemptions, the World Health Organization Global Network for Age-Friendly Cities and Communities membership, land use application for first, second, and third reading, which is 4920 and 40 Mariposa Court, going from small-scale multi-unit housing, RSML zone, to the RSMM zone. We have zoning amendments relating to small-scale multi-unit housing and the Westwater Drive traffic calming. May I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Move. So it's moved and seconded. We'll go to speakers. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'm only going to speak on a couple of them. Obviously, the long-term care is on number one. First of all, I'd like to thank Dan Levitt and the Vancouver Coastal Health and the people that are behind the project for coming out and speaking. I appreciate you providing us with the information. From my point of view, this project's a no-brainer, and it needed to be done many years ago. 10 years was too long a waiting, but I want to thank the Vancouver Coastal Health for bringing them forward for our consideration here. And on it, I'm not going to go through all the things because everybody has done it, but I'm really intrigued by the campus of care by providing things in the community that we don't have and are not available to people now, and bringing things that we're really in the 21st century on this. And I think we can only laud it as we move forward. I appreciate Vancouver Coastal Health answering all the concerns of the residents around the neighborhood that had concerns about it. And I'm going to ask that staff deal with all those concerns before this goes to public hearing on December the 15th. At least have a process or a path of how we're going to deal with some of the concerns that were traffic, building, what have you. I feel very confident it's going to go through. So on it, but Vancouver Coastal Health has provided all the answers. We have them in the book as we've gone along, and I appreciated that. So it's something that we need to be doing. This being a leading edge for our residents, it's great that we're having this model in Richmond, and thank you for bringing it here. When I look at things like the long-term care and the lady that just spoke, thank you very much for sharing. Extremely important. 39% of Richmond right now is over the age of 55. In another 10 years, we're going to have 50%. People think it's not going to be, but it'll come very, very quickly. We need to provide. We're already behind, and we continue to fall behind in every community in the province, whether it be in Cranbrook or in Prince George or in Victoria. We know that, but I think we need to invest in our seniors. You know, you folks are the ones that built our community, and I say thank you. You've given us the amenities over the 70 years that the lady's talking about and what have you to our community, and provided for this community as we know it today. I recognize many of people in Richmond. When you're over, we've been here 50 years, you're a pioneer. That is a comment of respect for being in the community. So when I see this, and I'm very excited, and I heard from the Vancouver Coastal Health with the intergenerational program. We've been doing that at Richmond Senior Center for years with the young people teaching seniors how to use computers. Remember the computer was 10, 20, and 40, went on from there, and letting people have computers on it. The fact that also that the community can interact in this building, and that was a really exciting thing that we'll be providing for. And I've been advocating for adult daycare in this community for many, many years. And we have an opportunity to have some in one building, but we need to do it elsewhere. So, Your Worship, on this this particular one, there's nothing but platitudes and positive comments that can be made for our seniors and for those that need it, and our caregivers as well. We mustn't forget the caregivers as well as the patients that are there. So I think it's very important, and I do support it no end. The other one I want to mention, Your Worship, is our letter to the, I do want to make sure that in the letter we're writing to keep our facility, and I call it our facility on Bridgeport, for the people there, stay the same, and those people have that opportunity. We cannot afford to lose it. It is critical we keep it. And we keep Victoria saying we need both facilities in Richmond, and we should be able to provide land again where we have land, and I think we are buying property where we can build yet another one. So I think that has to be emphasized in that letter, Your Worship. The other comment I made on the Cowichan.
No.
Oh, it's off the consent. I apologize. Okay, I'll be supporting everything else on the agenda, Your Worship. Be supporting the community events program. It's an exciting event. I looked at this tonight and I saw that what we're providing, and then I looked at on my iPad, the New Westminster has turned down $233,000 to get involved with FIFA. Vancouver's into FIFA for $7 million, and we're running programs like this, and I'm glad we're staying out of it in the way we've done it and we've handled on it. And so I will be supporting these kinds of events that we've got, and this is what makes Richmond it is. It's the city that it is. And I will support the membership for the World Health Organization for aged-friendly and committees member. This goes exactly with what we're talking about tonight. So it's another no-brainer tonight for us to join that group, be on it. I'm surprised there aren't that many British Columbia cities in that group, but we can be a leader on it. And with that, Your Worship, I'll support everything.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair, I too will be supporting everything on the consent agenda. And just a couple quick comments on one item, and perhaps to no surprise, that item is number 9, Lyons Manor on Fentimore Place. And just before I start, I do want to thank the delegations for coming out and speaking to us. That's always compelling. I also want to just acknowledge the incredible detail in the report that we were provided, and compliments to both Vancouver Coastal Health and to our staff for a very comprehensive report. I just want to reinforce the fact that a lot of communication has taken place on this project, and that goes to, again, to Coastal Health and our staff as well. I attended one of the open houses. There was a great exchange of information. You know, some legitimate concerns were expressed by neighbors in the community, and a lot of support was also expressed. And I think that we should acknowledge, as has been mentioned, that many steps have been taken to accommodate those concerns for our very outstanding projects. Things that have been mentioned already, but the setbacks are very important. Putting the tower of the building as far south and to the west as you can to minimize shading on the neighborhood. Hedges, noise considerations have been taken into account, like where loading and that kind of thing happens on the site. So I think the consultation has been very comprehensive and very good, and I think it's produced the best possible project for that location. I think some of the other things that we've been assured of, and Councillor McNulty kind of referenced this, and I agree, is that the ongoing concerns can be mitigated as we move forward too, so I'm confident that that will happen. This is a very innovative and modern building, so its footprint and height is slightly bigger than what existed there before, but it's going to be providing many more services than the old Lions Manor provided on that same site. So therefore, as has been mentioned, a lot of modern requirements for different things impact the size and the height of the building. So I think I'll just wrap up by saying that we all know that the need for this type of service already exceeds what we have available to us. So it is very important that we proceed and move forward with it. I think, as Councillor McNulty mentioned, the existing site on Bridgeport Lions Manor, that would be very good if we can retain that as well, and I think everybody's working towards that goal. And I'll conclude with the last comment, which is the one I really liked this as well about this site, is that daycare for shift workers. That's something, having been a shift worker, it's very hard for people that work shifts, not just coming off night shift, but when your days off might be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, it's very hard to find daycare. So this is a very good innovation that I'd like to see a lot more of. So with that, Your Worship, I'll be supporting everything on the consent agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will also be supporting everything on the consent agenda. I'll just speak briefly to 4 of the items. Item number 7, the City Signature Community Events Program. I do acknowledge we did hear some of the comments from the public on the fact that many of them are situated in Steveston, and Richmond is bigger than just the one neighborhood. But we do have in there a number of programs that are not set events in one location, but can be offered throughout the city. That also includes things like the Doors Open, which has a variety of locations for that event every year. And then there's the Richmond Farm Fest happening at the Garden City Lands. And then in addition, the last component to that item is the having staff look into potential events called the Community Festive Lights event, which would be held at Minroo Lake. Carry on to item number 8. That's the application by Hayden Co. Holdings on Rice Mill Road. I visited the location on the weekend. I often do, and projects like this impact environmental sensitive areas and riparian management areas like this one does. And it's an interesting item on the agenda because this is a parking facility that's actually off the site on the BC Ferries property. But what I value in the arrangement of this is that there will be habitat compensation done, and at the end of the temporary commercial use permit, it will be enhanced even better than it has been. And also it's odd to see that existing development on the corner of Number 5 Road and Rice Mill Road wouldn't have had that back lane, because to do any drop off and pickup with the industrial space, you'd really just have room, a lane to get the large truck in there to drop off and really block or have impediment to get back out. Item number 9, that's the Fenneman Place item. I'll speak about trees first here. So it does involve us losing 28 significant or sizable trees. We're required the developer to put in 56, but they don't have room. They'll be putting in 12 and then contributing over $34,000 for the city to find other locations to put in trees. I understand that is a lot of trees not going back into that neighborhood. However, Richmond does have the access point just to the south at the Steveston Community Park, so perhaps some of them can help to provide the shade to the residents and other benefits in that region. I as well am a long-term visitor to the long-term care homes in Richmond. My great-grandmother and my grandmother were in Pine Grove Place to the end, and my grandpa was at Minneru Residence. And so I really value these locations. I'm also very fortunate to live in Hamilton, right across from Hamilton Village, where both my in-laws are provided such great care, and it's just a 2-minute walk where I can bring their grandkids to see them and bring smiles to their face. And the visits are not like where we used to visit them at their previous locations, where we were having to do a lot more of the care, where now we get to bring the joy. And so we're really thankful for the staff there. And I really value, as Councillor Hobbs highlighted, the childcare spaces that will just assist with the longevity of staff and continuity of familiar faces that do so much to provide that care. And so I will just carry on to the last item I was going to speak to. Item number 12, that's the development at Mariposa Court. So just wanted to highlight there that this is typical development where there's trees removed, and with the fact that they also illegally removed a tree, I think there is enough response from the developer working with our city staff, as they have been able to save quite a large tree on site, and provided a 3-to-1 ratio for the tree that they illegally removed, and paid a fine on that. And they're going to add in extra trees above and beyond what will be required of them. So with that, Your Worship, I'll support everything on the consent agenda.
Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have 3 items, and I have questions for staff. And the first item I'd like to talk about is the City Signature and Community Event Program. I don't know if we have a staff member here to answer. And Mayor, I recognize the addition that's made on the contingency fund, and I think that is certainly appropriate. So I don't have to mention that, but what I'd like to discuss here is we received a memo from you with respect to some of the ancillary costs and the buckets that these costs come out of. And your memo to all of council indicates that direct costs, and this just relates to the Steveston Salmon Festival, which is one of the larger ones of the events that we're holding. And you indicated that costs included in 2025 was $88,125 for Public Works, Parks, and Traffic. Is that correct?
Through His Worship to Councillor Heed, that is correct.
So the additional money for the RCMP and Richmond Fire Rescue of $25,265, that actually was not included in the budget. It's coming from their particular budgets. Am I correct in assuming that?
Through His Worship to Councillor Heed, you are correct. That came out of the RCMP and Fire's operational budgets.
So when we go forward to 2026 with respect to these, will we include them, for example, the extra $25,000 in whatever other expenditures to ensure we have appropriate services on site for example, the Salmon Festival? Will we include that in the overall budget for the Salmon Festival?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Heed, the budget as presented in this report does not include those costs. From our understanding, it's a question of allocation of existing resources within those divisions. So they are not reflected in the 2026 events budget.
But there is a cost associated to those services being available, for example, the Salmon Festival, correct?
Through the chair, that it's costs that are already reflected in their operating budgets. If you have specific questions about those costs, then I would ask someone from that division to speak to it.
No, I just want to make sure that, for example, if for the taxpayers of Richmond, if the Salmon Festival, which I believe is going to cost us $384,000 for 2026, that is inclusive of all taxpayer costs, regardless of where that money's situated right now. That's all I'm trying to point out. But I think we've got to be more cognizant that when we give out a cost of what one of these festivals will cost. Thank you very much. Mayor, the next one I have, and it certainly relates to the main topic of tonight's meeting when we talk about the Fenton Place. And, you know, I'm certainly pleased that we do have such support for it, and that we'll be moving forward not only on this one, but hopefully others in Richmond for our aging populations. I guess the point I wanted to make out is our staff person that's dealing with this is we know there is some opposition to this, and I think Coastal Health has done a very good job in trying to address all of those concerns. I guess from my point of view, Mr. Rees, is we know we've seen a petition from people that are opposed to this, and a lot of it's attributed to what they perceive may be the traffic issue there, and I think we addressed that through the presentation here. But do we have something specific from the City of Richmond with respect to addressing those people on the petition so we can mitigate any problems that we perceive on December 15th at the public hearing?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, staff have heard from some of the letter writers who have written in specifically to the city addressing their concerns. Those letters have been responded to by city staff, identifying how those concerns have been addressed and considered as part of the application. With respect to the petition that was received as part of the application as well, those people and individuals will have the opportunity, should council grant first reading to this application, for us to hear from them further as part of the public hearing process.
I just want to know if we're doing anything extraordinary to kind of address their concerns, because we've got to live collectively in that area with this facility, and we want it to be as accepted as much as possible to the community. I am just wondering, working, and I'll leave it to you, working with our communications people to see if there's something we can do that will mitigate any of or most of their concerns. You know, even working with Coastal Health, I know Coastal Health has done an extraordinary job of doing it, more so than I've ever seen Coastal Health do previously on any of their projects.
If I may, through your worship to Councillor Heed, we're happy to continue to follow up with our Vancouver Coastal Health and ensure that they are communicating throughout with the area residents throughout the project.
And that we're contributing to that communication. Thank you. Thank you. Mayor, the last one is very peculiar, and I just want a bit of an understanding on it. It's the updating a development permit area exemption. Mr. Rees, I believe you're there. And it's just part of it, and I'm just trying to understand it a little bit more, is when recommendation number 2, you go that Richmond Official Community Plan 9000 Amendment Bylaw, and you mentioned in here B, the Greater Vancouver Regional District Solid Waste and Liquid Waste Management Plans. And, you know, I've been vocal on some of the, liquid waste management plans recently. So that management plan, Mayor, I see the smile on your face, that management plan, it never did the one going forward. In 2010, it came to council, I understand, and it went through consent. The plan was never presented to council, correct? The new plan?
With respect through your worship to Councillor Heed, with respect to that specific recommendation, that is part of council's policy when adopting an official community plan amendment, that we have considered it, the amendment itself, in the context of those various plans.
But we don't have the plan here. You're just saying in context of that bylaw, this will be included in it.
Through your worship, it is that the proposed OCP amendment has been considered in the context of those existing plans. In this case, the impacts of amending the DP exemptions has very little impact on those plans themselves.
Okay, thank you. I'm still confused, but thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too will be supporting everything on tonight's consent agenda. Just speak to a couple items. I'm really excited about number 9, Fentimore Place. The first time I saw a campus of care was out at Mennonite Benevolent Society over 30 years ago, and I saw the different levels of care that were available on the same campus, and people could, some people in the same family, one was in the hospital part and one was in the assisted living part, and they could still be able to walk and see each other and be together. And I thought, how wonderful. And now it looks like we're going to have something like that right here in Richmond. Even though it's separate providers providing this, it's still creating that all the way from independent living to hospice care right in your neighborhood. So I think it really creates something good. I know that, and thank you to everyone that came out and spoke, and thank you to Vancouver Coastal Health. I know we originally started talking about this long before Ms. Tate got involved in it. Vancouver Coastal Health was working with staff. They had a vision on what the building needed to look like. They wanted an X shape or something, and staff was like, you can't do that. We can't go over the road. Like, we have to figure this out better. And so they've been really working with the size of the site, this shape of the site, and the neighbors to try and figure out how they're going to do it, not have overlooks, overhangs, everything else. And this has been a huge process in the making. And there's been lots of discussion with staff in the neighborhood. And I'm excited to see that it's designed and programmed for living. Ms. Tate's spoken to us here, and she spoke to us at planning the other day, talking about everything from the child care piece of it to having a grocery store in it so people could experience life the way they always did. Go and buy some potatoes, come upstairs and peel them and be involved in the preparation of their own food and touching the things and day-to-day activities right in their own neighborhood with their neighbors coming in and being involved as well. And so I think it's pretty exciting what's coming to the neighborhood. I am going to speak to number 10, updating the development permit area exemptions. So what this does is, originally you could come in to City Hall and just get your permit right away if you're doing a renovation $75,000 or less, or if you're dealing with building envelope failure where you have water coming in. So then you can deal with it right away. If you have to go to development permit, it's a more bureaucratic, slow process. There's a panel that has to look at it and scratch their heads over it, and everybody comments on it, and it takes a lot longer. So this process increases that threshold to $150,000 because we all know construction costs have gone up. So your ability to do that and just get a permit, have staff look at it, go through it, our staff know what they're looking at. It doesn't need to go to this whole board. It doesn't have to go through this extra bureaucratic thing. I love getting rid of bureaucracy. I love being efficient, so I like this. In terms of dealing with the Greater Vancouver Regional District Solid Waste Plan, if you're doing a renovation over $150,000, it's unlikely that you're going to have a significant impact on the amount of things going into the sewer system. So it doesn't have to, it's been taken into consideration when staff allowed this to be part of our official community plan update, is they've considered what the impact would be, how significant it was. If you build a 144-bed care unit, it may have a bigger impact on the sewer system. And so that's what this is about. Anyway, I'll be supporting everything else on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Glanders.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I'll just make a couple of comments on a few items. Item 7, City Signature and Community Events Program 2026. As many of us know, we have really great events in Richmond. They do cost a lot, but they really bring the community together, and I think we do a great job. We did receive some correspondence, and Councillor Day mentioned it at the last meeting about that, 3 of these signature events are in Steveston. What about having a signature event in the city centre? I just want to point out that we did bring Richmond Farm Fest back, which is in the city centre, but and we're looking at doing the Community Festive Lights event at Mineru Lakes next year, possibly. So that's in the works, and especially since the construction of the lakes renewal is all done and the Bowling Green facility is finished, it could be really spectacular to have something happening in the city centre. And there's been a lot of people that have mentioned to me just wanting to have a cultural event that celebrates our diversity and culture that is in the city center, sort of like what we had with World Fest years ago, but not at that large of a scale and not that expensive. So hopefully we'll be moving in that direction. We'll see what we can do. Item 9, the Fentimore Place, Lions Manor, and just want to thank all the speakers that came out and all the explanations from Coastal Health and everybody that's just sitting in the audience and wearing the badges and that spoke. So thank you. It's just really exciting, like everybody said, to see such a high quality facility that's going to bring such dignified and healthy living for seniors. We all need this. Our parents need it. We need it at some point. Everybody, we all know people that need it, and we can't get enough of it soon enough. So 144 beds, this campus of care, the gold standard. We're so lucky to be moving forward with this, and it's been so many years in the making, and like other councillors mentioned, we know that there's been significant community engagement regarding any of the concerns that there's been with shadowing or traffic. I believe that everything will be mitigated, and once it's done, people will be really happy with it. And, you know, it was explained many times that without it being this configuration and this size, to have these family units, to have the commercial space, to have the daycare space, to have the hospice beds, and to have these family groups living together this way, without this exact size and scale, there is no project. There is no reducing it. It's this or nothing. And so I'm very happy to be able to be supporting that tonight. I wanted to speak to item 12, the land use application for 4920 and 4940 Mariposa Court. You know, this is a duplex that has 4 units. It's a stratified duplex, 2 units on either side that are all rented out. This is going to be subdivided into 2 lots, and a single family house will be built. In the past, I have voted against these projects. This was before the small-scale multi-unit housing zoning came in all over the Lower Mainland or the province. Because when you have a duplex, that unit is ultimately more affordable than a single-family house. So by changing it into 2 single-family homes, we are making it less affordable. There's 4 units being rented right now. What's being proposed is 2 homes with 2 secondary suites, 1 secondary suite in each home. So at least we know that 2 units will be rented again at some point, because what happened with small-scale multi-unit housing is that now that we can stratify all of these duplexes and suites into strata units, there's no real guarantee that those will be rented either. So in this case, it's kind of, at least we know there's going to be 2 that are going to be rented. The other thing about the project is the significant tree retention, especially the large cherry tree, which is very old and is in great condition. Western red cedars, hedges. They're doing a very good job of tree retention on this development. So I will be supporting it. And that's pretty much everything I want to speak to tonight. I'll be supporting everything on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone for coming tonight. It's so exciting when we have a full audience. So usually we've got 4 people sitting in the front row, so this is a lot of fun for us. So number 7, the community events. I'm really pleased that we are looking into the Festive Lights event at the Mineru Lake. And one of the things that was brought to my attention that what's happening in the city center. So I've asked staff to reach out to the community centers and get them to better promote their events. While it's not a city event, it's still in a community center. And I think that if we spread the word and let people know about what's happening, it'll be more exciting and there'll be more events to go to. Number 9, well, that's got to be the most important one on the agenda, and that's the Fentimore Place healthcare. So we did receive a number of support letters from Success and the Poverty Group, but we unfortunately also received 102 of these petitions. So we had to deal with that. The question I have with staff is that these are all dated July 17th and August 13th. But if I understand it correctly, since then, Vancouver Coast and the development team have reached out to the community and potentially alleviated some of their fears. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, through the mayor to Councillor Day, would you please repeat your question?
No, my apology. I'll try to talk slower so you can understand what I'm saying. These petitions are dated at the very top, July 17th and August 13th. So I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, that the Vancouver Coast Health Authority and the development team and staff have since had open houses. I think Councillor Hobbs mentioned he went to one of the open houses. So since these petitions were urgent attention required, mailed to us or emailed to us, I believe a lot of these concerns have been dealt with. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the petitions were all provided together as one package, and I believe that they reflect a number of different dates. What I can say is that the Vancouver Coastal Health hosted their community meeting in, just bear with me a moment.
It was May of 2025 was the last meeting.
Okay.
So the petition was received after the community meeting.
Okay.
And concerns listed were identified and addressed in the staff report.
Right, and then we, of course, reached out to people. And I noticed that the notification area was in the exact area, whereas a lot of the signatures were from Windjammer, Frigate, Schooner, Leeward, and Freshwater, so they weren't necessarily from people in the area. So this is one of the reasons that I decided not to give them as much weight, because it wasn't people in the actual area. But I think that Vancouver Coast Health and the development team have done an excellent job of informing the public and addressing some of the concerns that were out there, primarily traffic. But of the 144 beds, I don't think anyone's going to have a car because they're going to be in full care. So I don't think that the traffic is going to be as significant as some people thought it was going to be. And I mean, on page number 97, it states that it's currently zoned for apartment residential. So if this didn't get built, you could build an apartment building there. Isn't that correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Day, it's currently zoned for a healthcare facility. And there is an OCP designation currently that would allow for apartment housing.
Yeah, so we're on track for sure. You know, my dad lived his final months in Minro residence, and they took fantastic care of him. And my mom lived her final months or weeks in Rotary Hospice. And again, she received the absolute best care, and both passed away peacefully. I want every family in Richmond to have that same ability so that we can provide the appropriate care for the appropriate time in a setting that I believe is going to be copied by many other cities as they see how well this model works. And I can understand why it took 10 years to get here, because it took a lot of research and research to find out how we can get exactly the right development or the right model for this facility. So I thank everybody for that. Number 10 on the list is the development permit area exemptions. The City of Richmond has created online portals so you can go and get your permits for things like, you know, putting in a dishwasher or minor things just instantly. And so the idea is to try to make the queues shorter and get people in and out and get them working on their projects. And the last one I want to speak to is 14, is the Westwater Drive traffic calming. Happened to be visiting some people there when all of a sudden there was this motorcycle doing wheelies on Westwater, and there's people walking with strollers and kids on bikes, and this very inconsiderate young man was just completely out of control. And then I also noticed the speed. So putting in the traffic calming is going to make it far safer for all the people who live in the neighborhood, but particularly the school that backs on to Westwater. I just want to say thanks to staff, because they worked with the community, worked with the citizens. Because when they reached out to me, I said, well, you know, you need to talk to staff so they can come up with solutions to the problem, which they did. So I'll be happily supporting that as well. So that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call the question on the consent agenda, but I just want to say to people who are here, and we know that most of you are interested in number 9, once we have the vote, and many of you may want to leave, please do so quietly because we do have a substantial portion of the agenda yet to go. So with that, I'm going to call the question on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. That brings us to the items that were not placed on the consent agenda. And the first one is the motion to support the affected landowners during the appeal of the Cowichan land claim. The General Purposes Committee recommendation is to write a letter to the Prime Minister, the Premier, the Ministers of Finance, and the Attorneys General to mitigate the effects of the Cowichan land ruling on private landowners during the appeal process, and for staff to work with the federal and provincial governments to investigate options to support landowners in the disputed lands in Richmond to mitigate the effects of the Cowichan land ruling during the appeal process, including that the City of Richmond requests the provincial government incorporate fee simple title properties affected by the Cowichan tribe ruling into the property tax deferment program until a decision is reached by the BC Court of Appeal regarding this matter and reporting back. And so, and I would so move.
Second.
Now, I'm going to go to Councillor Liu. It was actually your motion that you brought forward. So go ahead and speak to it if you wish.
Thank you, Worship. As we know, the Cowichan land claim affected a number of properties in Richmond. It wasn't supposed to affect the private landowners. The reality, however, is because of the uncertainty caused by the ruling, it has effectively scared a lot of buyers away from the area. And so this means it's really hard to sell a property in the zone and for what should be a fair price. The appeal process, we know, will be many years, and during that time, the people need to know that they can sell and not take a massive financial hit. We all know that events happen, life events happen, death, disability, divorce, birth, marriage, these all happen. And the province needs to set up a process for these landowners to know that they aren't going to be held hostage to the timing of the appeal process. These people need to know that they can get a mortgage renewal and insurance, and the provincial government created this situation and should mitigate the financial effects on private landowners caused by the litigation. Our number 2 on it does talk about staff working with the federal government and provincial governments to investigate what options we can provide, and council can then decide on them at the time. But first and foremost, the province and the feds need to deal with this. They've created the problem and they need to move forward with it. I had originally considered adding an item that to call on the provincial government to begin negotiations. Having spoken with some people from Musqueam Indian Band, I've decided that it's better to leave it just the way it is and let the process play out through the provincial, through the court process. And what we need to do is just stay and focus on mitigating the effects on people in Richmond.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, I definitely don't think that any of us want our private landowners to be affected by this. I wouldn't say the current federal and provincial government caused this. This is something that's been ongoing since the 1800s. And we all have to figure out how to move forward. We need to all learn more about what this ruling means. We need to keep moving forward with the appeal. And we need to ensure that our private landowners aren't negatively affected by this. They didn't do anything to deserve being negatively affected by this. But we don't know exactly what the negative effects are. There's anecdotal reports of things. We certainly came out and immediately after the ruling said, well, nobody's going to buy property in this area now. And so, of course, there's fear and uncertainty. And potential purchasers could be frightened off by a lack of understanding about what all of this means. The underlying title that's underneath the fee simple title, which is what's in question. What does it all mean? We do know that the province is going door to door. They're having individual talks with each and every owner in this affected area to find out what, if any, issues they are having. So we need to find out what those issues are. We need to work with the province to collect that data and to find out what they learned so that we know how we can best advocate for our residents. I'm curious, if we are to write a letter, who is going to write the letter? What is going to be in the letter? And do we get a chance to review the letter before it gets sent out? And I think I know the answer. So if staff wants to answer, they can answer, or the mayor can answer, but I think that the mayor writes the letter, mayor's office writes the letter, it gets sent out, we don't get to review the wording. I'm not convinced that our mayor or council fully understands this issue in its entirety, and I don't fully trust what the wording in the letter is going to be or what the tone is going to reflect. I also don't think that we need a letter to the Prime Minister, Premier, and Ministers of Finance to begin doing this work. Why do we have to write a letter? Can we not just refer this to staff to work with? So hear me out. If I were to propose an amendment to remove item 1 and just that it be referred to staff to work with the federal and provincial governments, and all the wording is in there. I'm not comfortable with writing a letter because I don't know what the letter is going to say. I think our staff can work with the federal and provincial governments to investigate options to support the landowners, to learn more, find out what they've heard, find out what things are, and then we can, then when they report back and tell us what they've heard, what are the problems, what are the things that the province is considering, if we need to do a more clear and focused, targeted direction, then we can do that after we hear back. But for now, I would rather not write a letter. I think we should just refer this to staff to work with the federal and provincial governments. I would move that we eliminate item 1 and just move forward with option 2 with the words beginning that it be referred to staff to work with, et cetera, et cetera.
We will divide this up, and you can vote against it if you wish. No, I'm not taking a motion on that. If you want to do that, vote against number 1.
Okay.
And secondly, before we go to Councillor Wolf, since you don't trust the letter that I'm going to write or that I will sign, I can say probably I've signed and had under my signature during your term probably, I don't know, 1,000 letters or something. I've never had any comments about it. I think we fully know exactly what the situation is, and the letter will say that there's been great effects that haven't been caused by the people of the city of Richmond, and we're calling upon you to mitigate the effects of that. And so I don't know what you think is going to be in the letter that is not trustworthy. I find that comment really, you're making it sound like you don't know what I'm talking about. You said you don't trust the letter. That's what you said.
Mayor, this is a very sensitive and complicated issue, and there have been letters sent out prior that we weren't notified about, that I didn't necessarily agree with all the wording on the letter. I think that most things that come out of this office are very straightforward. I think that you know what you're doing. I think you know the business of the city. This is an extremely complicated issue, and I don't see the benefit of writing a letter. We don't need it to work with the other levels of government.
That's fine. Then
it's not a dig against you at all.
Yes, actually it is.
No, it's not.
You're saying I don't know what I'm talking about. You say I don't understand the complexities. I can tell you that it is me and this council that has started an international debate on what the limits of reconciliation are. So I think we fully know what the complications are, and you vote against it if that's what you wish.
That's fine.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Yeah, I was the only one didn't support this at general purposes in the discussion that we had last week. I feel the same, and I'll share my thoughts more succinct this time. I think my biggest concern with this motion is that it risks delaying progress towards the only durable long-term solution, a negotiated settlement. We heard from the delegate earlier, I think that was his point number 4. And it's between the Crown and Cowichan. The measures proposed here, letters, investigations, temporary supports, may seem helpful in the short term, but they ultimately divert time, energy, political focus away from negotiating that settlement that will actually resolve the underlying land title uncertainty. Every temporary intervention the motion calls for, compensation, deferral mechanisms, backstop projections, require administrative development, funding, legal reviews, ongoing oversight. These steps add layers of bureaucracy rather than advancing the settlement table. Moreover, the financial exposure associated with stopgap measures has the potential to escalate dramatically. Costs could rise from millions to billions if uncertainty continues with potentially more court cases. This creates a ballooning financial liability without addressing the root cause. Beyond financial inefficiency, the motion risks creating additional public anxiety. By framing the situation as requiring urgent government intervention, it may unintentionally signal that the underlying land title regime is unstable and that landowners are an imminent risk, which is not accurate and which may heighten community fears. It also risks establishing an unsustainable precedent, implying that in every future land title or treaty-related dispute, municipalities should expect to intervene financially or administratively, something municipalities are neither equipped nor mandated to do. While the motion is well intended, it distracts from the real work, which in my opinion is the support for senior governments to reach a permanent negotiated settlement that will provide certainty for landowners, governments, and Indigenous nations alike. Until that happens, no temporary measure can offer true resolution, and efforts spent on interim mechanisms may ultimately slow the progress towards that final settlement. Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me tell you, I have complete confidence in the appeal court here in British Columbia and the subsequent, if it goes to the subsequent court, the Supreme Court of Canada. I think we'll have a strong, more legal to a certain sense opinion from that. So the letter's fine. You know, we've got to do whatever we can to try and mitigate. This is my concern that I have, is a hyperbole with respect to what we think is going on when we have statements made that people can't get mortgages. Do we know if that's correct? I haven't heard from anyone in there that they can't get a mortgage. When we got people being charged a premium to remortgage, I haven't heard anything with respect to that. I know there was some concern about whether one of the banks would refuse something, and I think it was the National Bank. They actually precedents and came out and said, they made a statement saying, no, that's not correct. We haven't changed our regulations. So, Mayor, you know, and you'll have the ability to do this, and I think whatever it is, it's got to be factual information with respect to what we're asking for the other levels of government as an interim measure until the courts rule on this. So I just want to make sure it's not just rhetoric, unsubstantiated claims, that it's actual factual information. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
We're in this position because of the federal and provincial government, and we should be working with all the parties to resolve this issue. I don't appreciate it when inflammatory comments are made in the press, such as, I don't know anyone who would buy the property in the zone unless it was at steep discount, and only people who will be able to sell will have to sell at huge loss to the vultures that are circling above, that this is a black zone, that this is a precarious situation. There is things going on that are, I believe, political things in the background to try to use this issue to promote certain politicians. And I'm, for one, really offended by it. This is way too important to play politics. This is serious. We need to work with the province, and that's why I'm great with number 2. But after the letter that went out, and I'm sorry, Mayor, but when you sent that letter out to all those landowners, we didn't see it. We didn't approve it, and when I read it, I just about fell off my chair because it scared the bejesus out of people. And that wasn't necessary because this has been in the works for years. We've had 520 days in court, and while the ruling came as a stark surprise to all of us, we're dealing with it. And what we should have been telling the people is we're dealing with it. So I reached out to, after the whole incident with all these press releases and press conferences, and I thought, what is going on? I need to ask questions. So I went to MLA Kelly Green's office to find out that they've been going door to door. And they have these brochures in English and in Chinese, and they have a woman named Christine Saruma and another fellow named Alex from the Premier's office going door to door, sitting down, having coffee and tea with the residents, the business owners in the affected area, and finding out what is true. Do we know that someone couldn't get a mortgage? We don't know. Do we know that someone couldn't get insurance? We don't know. Are people selling at steep discounts to vultures? We don't know. But these folks who are working from the Premier's office are doing their best to mitigate the situation, and I believe they're highly motivated to come to a reasonable conclusion with the Cowichan. The Cowichan themselves, well, obviously not my favorite people right now, but they have said, we don't want to take anybody's land. They're just using the ruling as a negotiation tool, as people often do in business. So while the whole situation is incredibly unfortunate, the last thing this council should be doing is making it look like we are in some kind of position to fix it when we're not. It's the provincial government and the federal government. So I would like to amend this motion to delete number 1 and go with just number 2, which is that staff be directed to work with the provincial and federal government to mitigate and find options to support landowners. This is the only way we can go forward. You know, if we start standing up on the top of a soapbox and raising our hands and putting fear into people, we provide a disservice to this community, and I, for one, don't want any part of it.
I've already said that if you don't like number 1, vote against it.
By making a motion to amend the...
No, we're not making a motion to amend. You vote against it. That's how you delete it. Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. I think one thing we can agree, probably, around the table is that this is a very serious issue. It's uncharted territory. It's a court decision that breaches some principles that courts really have stayed away from before, and that's fee simple land and land title systems. There's the odd exception, but not to this scale. So I think we all agree on that. And how we go about addressing it is a little bit difficult because we have never had to do this before as a council. Now, we've had lots of letters written by various mayors over the time, and we don't check their letters before they go out. We do trust our legal staff, which would probably be heavily involved in this particular letter. So legal staff would probably be quite heavily involved in constructing this type of letter. And the important thing to remember about this whole process is it is unprecedented. It's not going to be solved with one letter. It's not going to be solved with one meeting. This is an initial step. And I would suggest that to get to number 2, it's hard to do without doing number 1, because the mayor, on behalf of the city and council, has to contact various levels of government and indicate an interest and a desire for us to be involved with them in finding solutions that will work. So number 2 ends with explore options and report back. That's where the rubber is going to meet the road. And that's where we'll probably get into more substantial discussions on what other types of options, aside what's contained in the motion itself, what other things that we can actually include in discussions with senior levels of government. And it is primarily their responsibility, since the city is a creation of the provincial government. So it's not, strictly speaking, our role, but we certainly do have a leadership role and a role to play in trying to represent the citizens of Richmond and the owners that are affected by this. So I do not have a problem with writing a letter to get that process going. As far as negotiations go involving other parties, nothing about writing a letter and nothing about our city getting involved in a process to look at things that we've never thought about before in terms of how to resolve the situation, nothing prevents negotiations from taking place. That can take place, and perhaps they will. The real key here is, and Councillor Heed, and I agree with his comments, mentioned it, is the appeal court process and ultimately probably the Supreme Court of Canada. That's where this is really going to get resolved, because one-off negotiations involving 2 or 3 parties, that might get a short-term settlement in some way, but this is a legal issue. A judgment has been rendered by the Supreme Court of BC by a justice, and it's going to have to get resolved in the appeal court process. And I'll just end by this. I will support the letter and the motion because it's the first step, and we will report back. So thank you.
Before I go to Councillor McNulty, Councillor Rao is on the line and has a question or a comment.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm in support of the letter writing. We all understand that this is a very complicated issue, but in order to have the final settlement, I think perhaps, it has to be a number of years. And I think during this process, people need to have some kind of mitigation so that they can overcome some of the difficulties that they are having right now. I understand that some people might say, oh, negotiation is a better route to go, but my question is, who are the parties being involved in the negotiation? We know that at least there are 3 tribes, First Nation groups, saying that that piece of land is theirs. So should the government negotiate with 1 or all 3? And what if all 3 tribes cannot agree on the same terms? So I think to say that negotiation is a better route, I think this is impractical, at least at this stage, until we got clear legal situation being resolved. Now, and to say that, we are not sure about the situation, people might not be really being affected, I think this is denial. We have seen people talking to the media openly that they could not sell their house. To say that that situation may not be that bad, I think is really denial. Now, about the letter, I have full confidence that the mayor can represent us if we pass this motion to write a fair and balanced letter. However, to be honest, I also doubt whether or not the letter can really bring results. Because we know that we have written letters to the other levels of government before, but they are just being ignored. I want to also to ask a question to our staff. I understand that we have written letters on October 23rd to the Attorney General of Canada and also to the provincial government. I want to know whether or not we have received any response so far.
Who can comment on that, Tony? Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Rao, yes, there were 2 letters written. The first letter to the Attorney General of Canada, we have not received a response to that. With respect to the second letter, we have, this was to the Attorney General of British Columbia, we have had subject to litigation privilege discussions with their counsel, but the Attorney General has not changed her position, which is the directive which mandated that the provincial lawyers not argue extinguishment.
Yes, thank you for that answer. So that's why I think, we have to do our part, which is to write the letter. And whether or not they would respond is their duty. But I think it's also our duty to write the letter. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McNulty.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. A lot has been said, so I'm not going to go over it, but I want to just make a couple of points with regard to what we have here. The question to you, Your Worship, you chaired it. Did we take minutes of the public meeting? We had the information meeting, so that we would have over 700 people there. We would have metrics with regard to some of the impact it's having on these people in Richmond? I assume we have other tape and/or minutes for
I think we've
such a forum.
got a tape.
So we do have their concerns because
Yeah.
obviously accusations have been made, and I'm not sure which way to turn. Because nobody has come to me about their issue, whatever. So I don't know if the information is correct or not, but we must have it in a public forum put by those people affected. The first thing, though, I would say is we do need to look after our residents of Richmond that are affected in any way, with any manner. Doesn't matter what it is. And I think that we can't do it. The one thing is we're not going to be able to run away from this whatsoever. It's on the books. It's come to a head. It's critical. I'd like to know what the province is going to do in terms of its plan and how it's going to do the same with the feds. We know there are situations like this in Ontario and New Brunswick. Now, I don't know if law in Ontario and New Brunswick is any different than law in British Columbia and Richmond. I wouldn't think so. So there are issues here. And we're going to know what are they doing in terms of trying to provide a solution. And all partners have not been talked to. It's only been certain segments that have been having all the information, I guess, and putting it out to the media. And I'm learning from the media. I don't have anything for it. But we keep hearing, and I believe the only way it's going to be solved, maybe the Supreme Court won't touch it, is going to be through negotiations, because it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away in your lifetime or anybody else's lifetime. There are those kinds of issues that are continuing. So there is a bigger problem here, and it's got to be settled at the Crown and the Cowichan or whoever, the province. So we don't know what the appeal is going to come back. But it's leaving people in turmoil for a long time without any sense of direction or plan. And that's what we need to get some, not finality, but at least they know where they can go and where it's going to go. And I think that that's important. There are the immediate impacts, and there are the long-term impacts. And we're not going to be able to necessarily deal with them. I thought about the letter. We're talking about mitigating the fix. I think we got to be more specific. That's why I asked about what the metrics, Your Worship, from the meeting. Those specific things we heard from the people, not from around this table or from other, we heard from them. It's like having them up here as a delegation saying, this affects me this way, Your Honor or Your Worship. Okay, and we have it, and then we have those things. Because there are so many things going around, and I think we've got to get to fact, and the fact of the people that affects directly. And we'll work and do our best, and we'll bust our butts to help those folks. And because the other thing is, don't forget, it could happen to you. Just because we put some things out, there could happen to you as well. Okay, if you look at what the judge said and based information on, if you have a copy of it, so it's part of the bigger problem. So I'll stop there, Your Worship. I will support these two, but I really feel by mitigate the effects. Okay, we need to define those. I think what others are saying as well. Concrete things that are in. And if what was said earlier are facts, then put them down. Okay? Yes. And the other question, Your Worship, is how many? Was it one person affected? Was it 20 people affected? Or whatever it is? Because we had how many people come up and speak, Your Worship? A dozen, but they represented 100 people in East Richmond and what have you on it. So I think that's where I leave it at this time. And I will support these, but I really think, I'm not sure how you're going to handle that, but I request you get the specifics on the landowners, even if we have to communicate with some of them. Let's get our facts right. Let's go to the province and ask where their plan is. And that's where I supported before. What are you planning to do down the road? What if the appeal's thrown out? What if it's accepted? We have two scenarios. We need to know which direction we're going to go either way. Okay, thank you.
All right. And I'll just close it out by pointing out a couple of things that seem to have been lost by a number of the members of council. When they minimize the importance of this whole issue, or they minimize the effects of it, just remember that even if the Cowichan are come to some resolution on this situation, there's a court precedent for what has happened. And so this could be any resident anywhere could be affected by the precedent that has been set. And when the judge has talked about Aboriginal title being something like a senior and a prior right to a fee simple, I think that is very significant, because what that means is you've got Aboriginal title, which takes precedent over a Crown grant, which takes precedent over fee simple. And so that calls into question pretty much every title that there is in the province. And also that the judge, in her infinite wisdom, struck out indefeasibility. The sections of the Land Title Act are, was it 23 and 25 are totally struck out. So when someone says that they're surprised in the extreme by what they see in the letter that I had sent out to the landowners, first of all, I will defend every single word in that letter, which was checked by many parties before it went out. And secondly, we are dealing with a situation of national and international consequence as to the limits of the negotiations between the various parties. So and caught in the middle of this is simply the people in Southeast Richmond. So to say to the Prime Minister, the people from the federal and the provincial government, and it's acknowledged that it was their doing, we want you to help mitigate the effects while this all gets worked out, and then we want you to work together to do various things to support the landowners. I just think that that's the least we can do. So I'm certainly going to be supporting all this. With that, I'm going to call the question. I'll separate it as has been indicated. All those on number one, all those in favor, those opposed. So it is carried with Councillor Wolf, Galanders, and Day opposed. And on number two, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. That brings us to the Public Works and Transportation Committee matter of the contract for tires and tire services. I'll go to Councillor Carol Day, Chair of the committee.
This is the award of contract for supply and delivery of vehicle and equipment tires and certified tire services. It's going to be to Irving Tire. It has a contingency of $201,000 and change, and the maximum total value is $1.2 million and change. And that the CEO and the general manager will be authorized to extend the 3-year term if that's so chosen, which is an estimated value of $673K plus $134,000 in contingency for a total value of $2 million. And that's been moved. And
are you moving it?
I am moving it, yeah.
So it's moved and seconded. Go ahead.
Yeah, who knew tires could cost so much money? The one issue I did have was with the 20% contingency. So I've asked staff to justify how in the past that has been used, and if they have any additional information they can offer, since we just had the committee meeting last week, I would be very happy to hear how we came up with 20% and what has happened in the past when the 20% was not needed, and how do we get to 20%?
Okay. As staff is coming down, please come down and you can talk about contingency, but let's let's make mention of the fact that there's been a referral from committee to generally look at the question of contingency.
Yes,
So-
so the motion was to staff explore what is a reasonable contingency under good business practice for all city aspects and report back. So it's not really limited to just this report, but contingency in general. So, go ahead.
Your comments.
Through your worship to Councillor Day, so in regards to the contingency that we have put in this contract, we have subject matter experts that have reviewed and provided a estimate of tires needed in the upcoming years. This is based on the current condition of our assets as well as historical information that we have. As you'll note in the memo provided, there was, in the past 2 years, there has been considerable increase in tires needed and used. Now this is based on wear and tear as well as potential damage. So the contingency, again, is in there only if needed and only to be spent within the scope of the contract.
And when, if and when it's used, given that it's so much money, the authorization would come from?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, so staff will track the purchases up to the approved annual amount, and if the contingency is required to be used, it will go to GM for approval.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I vote against this as you're appointed to this committee. And I did it because of the contingency. And I support what's there. I don't accept the reasoning for contingency because it seemed to be a 20% across the board for the city to be able to handle it. I've never had a contingency reported back of what we did with it or we saved it. Never had it. And all the contingencies. So I can't support staff on that. I think it's a bunch of crap, to be quite frank with you. I'd like to, in the report back that in referral I made, I'd like to know the use of contingency. Why 20%? And does every area, our purpose that we have in the city, have to have 20% across the board? I think we heard from some of our people at the Oval the other day that it should be a 5% contingency, and you can add to it from there. And I guess the other thing is, if we need to put, $250,000 in a contingency, we better budget better. That tells me there's something lacking here, because the taxpayer are asking me about that. Okay? Thousands and thousands of dollars are in contingency. Why? We never see it come back. Nobody's returned it. We were under budget, etc. So I just give that as a point of information, Your Worship. I'm not asked staff to respond to that. So I expect a pretty detailed area, because in Parks and Rec it might be a 30% contingency. I don't know that. Okay, but let's get it from our business people. Building may be 22%. Something else may be only 15% or 7%. So let's find it. When we have our experts in our Blue Ribbon Committee saying areas of building should only be 5%, and we got 20, then I have to ask some questions. Thank you, Your Worship.
My recollection of what our oversight committee said is that we hadn't budgeted enough for contingency.
Then we'll find out what it is.
Well, I'm going to ask staff to comment on that. Who can tell us about that? Mr. Irving.
To Your Worship, yes, I don't have the exact numbers at hand, but upon review by the Major Capital Projects Oversight Committee, when staff brought the funding report to council for recommendation, at the recommendation of the committee, the contingency was increased, I believe, to 30% at that point for the entire project, looking out over 10 years. So there is considerable uncertainty in a project when you're trying to predict it that far in the future for construction, when you're trying to predict cost escalation and things like that. But yes, the recommendation of the committee was to increase the contingency that staff had determined with the consulting team.
All right. Councillor Heed.
Yes, my point is a contingency. And if you look at the contingency, it just isn't 201,000. I believe it's about, it's 201 plus 134,000 for year 4 to 5. So you've heard me comment. I voted against this in committee, and it's all around this contingency. So we as a council certainly should hear from staff eventually on how we're going to deal with these contingencies, because I agree with Councillor McNulty and others around the table this looks ridiculous, $340 some odd thousand in contingency for something that's about $2 million. So there is a concern. Thank you.
All right, with that, we're going to call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. That brings me to public announcements. There were a number of appointments made, but first of all, the city has executed a 5-year agreement with the Richmond Museum Society for the services provided at the local museum. Then we've got a number of appointments that all go to December 31st, 2027. First of all, to the Seniors Advisory Committee, Zarina Chan, Queenie Chu, Carol Dixon, Tom Tang, Jamil Karim, Debbie Nider, Hong Yan Pan, and Robert Gill. Then to the Richmond Social Development Advisory Committee, Joan Page, Simon Kaby, and Stephen Lamoth. To the YVR Aeronautical Noise Management Committee, Arvind Sharma. To the Advisory Design Panel, Andrew Larigakis, Thomas Lee, and Doug Shearer. And finally, to the Richmond Public Library Board, Gina Mahill, Brian Tisdall, Jennifer Gervais-Keene, and Angeline Nadeau. And then more generally, we've got 2 exhibits at the Richmond Museum. We've got 80 Years of Freedom and Friendship, shares the joy of the liberation of the Netherlands by Canadian soldiers at the end of the Second World War. And that exhibit is on until May 11th, 2026. We also have at the museum the Maple Road Experience. It explores how one Richmond youth's passion for skateboarding sparked a movement that grew into something much bigger, and that runs until August 16th of next year. Then we have the Rotary Club of Richmond Sunsets Winter Wonderland here at City Hall. You're invited to celebrate the holiday season with the Rotary Club of Richmond Sunsets Winter Wonderland, and that's right here. Each year, the trees are sponsored by local businesses, organizations, or individuals. Matinee musical concerts take place on Saturdays, November 29th, December 6th, and 13th, and visitors enjoying the festive displays are encouraged to a non-perishable food item to bring it in support of the Richmond's local food bank. And finally, we have the Carols and Crafts in the Aberdeen Neighborhood Park. That festive occasion returns to Aberdeen Neighborhood Park on Saturday, December 6th from 11 in the morning to 3 p.m., featuring festive activities that are all free, local vendors, live performances, and photos with Santa. You're invited to enjoy food truck treats and seasonal fun for all ages. The event is, of course, weather dependent. For more information and updates, go to richmond.ca, Carols and Crafts. Madam Clerk, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 7 bylaws for final adoption with no opposition.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on any of those? All those in favor, pose carried. And Development Permit Panel?
Thank you. There are 2 recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on October 29th, 2025, and the Chair's report for the Development Permit Panel meetings held on October 29th be received for information, and that the recommendations of the panel to authorize the approval of changes to the development permit issued for the properties located at 10380 No. 4 Road be endorsed and the changes be deemed to be in general compliance with the permit.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Then we have public delegations on some non-agenda items. May I have a motion to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to hear delegations on non-agenda items? All those in favor, opposed, carried. So we have 2 such delegations. First of all, we'll go to the Richmond Poverty Reduction Coalition Projects Consultants, etc. for their final report. Poverty Reduction Coalition? Okay, come on forward. Have a seat at the table. Introduce yourselves, and you've got 5 minutes. You can have a seat or you can stand, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Just get in towards the mic as best you can.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I am Lena Deer-Ferris, and this is Adora, Darren, and our coordinator, Athena. We are a committee of the Richmond Poverty Reduction Coalition that meets twice a month. Tonight, we are here to share our latest project called Building Hope, Keeping Seniors Housed with You. We wish to thank our funders, Literacy Richmond, the City of Richmond, and Richmond Community Foundation. In the last year and a half, we produced an environmental scan to become familiar with how Richmond's 10-year senior strategy is getting ahead of homelessness trends. We hosted presentations in our meetings from partners like the Emergency Housing Shelter, and we designed research before talking to our coalition's clients to look for urgent needs and community strengths. Thank you.
Through these organizations, we interviewed or assisted 135 people to complete our questions. We also had surveys filled out where we didn't conduct interviews, and we even had non-RPRC organizations participate for all total of 250 surveys. We offered interviews and written surveys in both English and in Chinese, and then 35% of our surveys were in Chinese.
We succeeded in the decline engaged by our coalition, where the survey were predominantly senior. 90% were over 55 years old and 72% were 65 years old. We asked them about their work, history in Richmond, how they save money, and about their families and health.
So here's a slide with some points that speak for themselves and some opportunities and some vulnerabilities. And we just highlighted that 57% of the people we talked to fear that they might be homeless one day.
We found out that many people don't have a backup plan if they become unhoused. And 46% said they would have friends or family to live with, and 44% said they wouldn't have any financial saving if they were in emergency need of housing.
We found that half the group we talked to reported working in Richmond for at least 10 years. 30% said they are not comfortable reporting cases of abuse or neglect involving seniors. We also found that age and disability were the two most reported classes of discrimination that people felt against them. And 1/4 of the people we talked to checked 3 or more of these different classes of discrimination.
Okay, so we also did some best practices reviews to find some things that we are going to be educating people about, things that you probably already know about, but the main things we wanted to say to you today is how important it is that the city have conversation with financial institutions to make these best practices possible, and to always think about the accountability for the staff and building that into evaluations, because you don't want those cases of discrimination to carry through. And we also talked to the shelter, and maybe you guys could help them with some of the work that they're doing, because it's kind of a really challenging situation. Maybe even have a seniors only shelter. The work we are planning to do at the community level will encourage families to plan together and to think about the kind of attention we can give to ourselves and each other. And we've made connections with new partners like the BC Community Response Networks, and we will be continuing to cultivate self-advocacy, connection, concern, and compassion in the new year with these topics.
And we are hosting a much more in-depth discussion in a forum this Wednesday morning at St. Albans Church Hall, where we will explore some of the solutions that Richmond could possibly innovate with. BC Seniors Advocate, who is here today, will also be attending to speak, and there will be other noteworthy presenters. We thank everyone who has RSVP'd, and we do still have room for others who would like to register. That is all from us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming and presenting this. Can you either leave with us a copy of your slides or send it to us so that it can be distributed to the various council members?
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, the other delegation is from the Vancouver District Labour Council to speak on the Save Our Handy Dart campaign. And if you could come forward and introduce yourselves, and you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for the time to address you this evening regarding the Save Our Handy Dart campaign. I'm Stefan von Sichowski. I'm the president of the Vancouver District Labour Council. I have with me Dee Whalen from the Richmond Poverty Reduction Coalition, Joe McCann from the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1724, and Sam Weiss from the BC Federation of Retired Union Members. The organizations we represent are working alongside Handy Dart riders, disability rights groups, seniors organizations, and unions as part of the Save Our Handy Dart campaign. We're advocating for Handy Dart service delivery to be publicly operated, which will equitably fulfill the needs of our community. In our view, TransLink's current contracted out model for Handy Dart is broken, resulting in people with disabilities not being treated with the same level of dignity and respect as other transit users in our region. We've been listening to the voices of Handy Dart users, caregivers, and operators, and doing everything possible to make sure their voices are heard by decision makers. We held a town hall with over 100 participants and ran a survey taking feedback from riders. What we heard is that the quality of our service fluctuates wildly from day to day. Some days they're happy with the service, other days they're extremely frustrated by it. And so I'm going to pass it over for the moment to Joe McCann to talk a bit about the service issues.
I'm Joe McCann, president of Amalgamated Transit Union 1724, representing Handy Dart. Just to speak on the issues around Handy Dart from our perspective also, there's lots of issues around Handy Dart. One symptom of a lack of planning and infrastructure could be the increasing reliance on taxis to provide the service. Now, taxi companies are not Handy Dart. They're simply not able to meet the safety standards of Handy Dart bus drivers. We're trained to provide good service. We have like 4 weeks of training. We have to pass a vulnerable sector check, and we're closely scrutinized by supervisors and managers. Handy Dart has been benchmarked to provide 7% of the trips by taxi, and right now we're at 28% of the trips being used by taxis. And taxis were supposed to be used as a stopgap service, not part of the business model entirely. Despite this, Handy Dart is fully contracted out to a private for-profit company, which gets put up the bid for the lowest bidder every 4 years or so. Every time a new company takes over Handy Dart's operations, we lose years of progress and productivity. In comparison, conventional bus drivers in Vancouver and around Lower Mainland evolve and grow over decades because they can rely on consistency from the year to year as a public subsidiary. Not at Handy Dart. Operator morale is very low. Recruitment and retention proves difficult. Every new contractor is focused on profit, as they are for profit, and not efficiency, as we'd like to believe. All those taxes are going out of British Columbia. No investment in long-term growth or infrastructure. It's kind of sad. Meanwhile, Metro Vancouver's aging population creates an impending crisis where more people will be relying on paratransit. We also feel that in this Buy Canadian moment, we cannot be outsourcing our public services to foreign for-profit corporations. We must ensure that our tax dollars are spent here in Canada, actually here in British Columbia, in our communities, to strengthen our local economy while providing quality services. I'll just hand it back to Stefan.
And the BC-NDP did promise in their 2024 election campaign platform to insource HandyDART if elected, but now appear to be unfortunately sitting by while TransLink moves towards another round of contracting out. So we need the voices of local leaders like yourselves to apply some pressure to make sure that TransLink and the provincial government do the right thing for HandyDART service in Metro Vancouver. Now is the time to fix HandyDART. Bus operators and staff, riders and caregivers can't wait any longer. Public delivery of this critical infrastructure will bring stability, predictability, and greater accountability to all involved. So that's why we're asking City Council tonight to endorse the Save Our HandyDART campaign so that we can ensure safe, quality public transportation for all residents of Metro Vancouver. We have already received support from 9 municipalities, representing over 73% of Metro Vancouver residents. Richmond, adding to this list, would bring us just over 80%. This, along with the voices of HandyDART riders, workers, caregivers, and their allies, form a powerful voice that TransLink and the provincial government cannot ignore. So please support our campaign, and we thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a question from Councillor Wolf.
Sure.
Thanks. It might be a couple-part question. Thanks for being here. And we had a brief discussion at Public Works Transportation last week, and we heard you were coming tonight, so we were thankful we could continue this with your expertise. My first question is, you mentioned that you already have 9 municipalities that have endorsed it. Is that enough so that when it goes to the vote December 3rd, I believe, if all those people who say they endorse it and vote for it, will that be enough to have majority?
If only it were so. Unfortunately, because of the structure that exists in TransLink governance, the decision is not made by our elected representatives, the mayors. It's made by the TransLink board. And the Mayor's Council has 2 representatives on that board. The provincial government appoints 2 people to that board. There are people on that board who we know support this, but we do not know with absolute certainty that there's a majority there. We're going to have a lot of speakers at that meeting to deliver this message and make sure that they understand the issue and hope to get the vote that we need. But we are seeing tremendous support from municipal leaders across the region for this campaign.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that then, Your Worship, will that be an open meeting?
Yeah, it's a meeting of TransLink's board on December 3rd, starting at 9 a.m. The public participation will be via Zoom, but folks can sign up to speak up until December 1st in order to get their 3 minutes to say their bit.
Okay, thank you. Your Worship, before you go to the next speaker, I know sometimes that after a non-delegate or a non-agenda item delegation, we refer things to staff, but knowing that the timing for the vote is imminent, I think we could potentially make an endorsing statement and vote on that tonight.
We're in committee, so we're not making any motions that are binding on anybody. You can make whatever statement you wish.
Then can I make a referral?
You can make a referral.
Okay.
I'll come back to you on that. Councillor Day.
Okay, I don't quite understand why we couldn't make a motion. But,
Because we're in committee.
And you can't, okay, so we'd have to refer it and then have a special meeting, or?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to think that through.
Okay, I'd like to ask staff to weigh in on this. It's a lot of information. What's the staff's position on this presentation?
I don't think staff has a position, do they? And listen, just ask your questions of these gentlemen.
Okay, so the deadline is December 3rd. That's a hard line deadline?
Yeah. Correct, yes. The TransLink board will vote on a recommendation on that day.
And today is November 24th. Okay, we'll work with staff, see what we can figure out.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gents.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Councillor Wolf.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to introduce a referral motion that this be considered at our December 1st general purposes meeting, and that we have a follow-up special council meeting afterwards to ratify endorsement.
You know, I want to hear that again, because that's pretty convoluted, frankly.
December 1st is Monday coming up. We have a general purposes meeting at 4 o'clock and then a finance meeting afterwards. I am asking that we have a special council meeting after both of those and have a discussion at GP. And if it is endorsed, then we can, on the same day, have it ratified by the full council vote, and then it's done 2 days before this goes to Mayor's Council.
If you want to have further consideration, the materials for December 3rd will be out by Wednesday. So the referral would be to have staff comment on the materials relating to HandyDART that are produced by TransLink staff for the board, and make comments and report back as soon as possible. What? Well, we okay, to GP on December 1st. I'm okay with, if you want to do that, but there are a lot of things that council needs to know. There are 4,000 trips per day that are taken on HandyDART. They've got 32,000 members. And these are just random thoughts. But if you take a look at the website for TransLink, you'll find that the satisfaction score for overall services is 8.8 out of 10. The on-time performance has remained steady at around 91% since 2022. And in 2024, over 99.6% of trip requests were delivered. Secondly, it is frankly not accurate what the delegation said. It is accurate that the NDP made a promise that they would bring TransLink in-house if they got elected. But that is not what the mandate of the minister is. And I'll read you what the minister's mandate is: to ensure that our provincial transit services are being delivered in a way that is cost-effective for taxpayers, responsive to the concerns of transit riders, and not duplicative of administration, by reviewing the private delivery model for provincial transit systems, starting with HandyDART. So it is not a mandate by the province to bring it in-house. I mean, I don't know how they could, especially without providing the money for it. There are financial issues that have to be reviewed. And the fact that there's been a long history of meetings with, first of all, I think it's called the Amalgamated Transit Union. Since March 2024, there's been 7 meetings with the leadership and 3 workshops with the unionized staff. So this is a much more of a complicated issue than we have heard tonight. So if you want a referral, that's fine. But in the end, it's not going to be decided by the mayors. It'll be decided by members of the board of TransLink. So, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. No, I think referral to staff to come back, and obviously you have information that the rest of us don't have to evaluate that information, give us the factual metrics on it, and more importantly is consult with a couple of our user groups, especially RCD and others, on how they have found the service, so that we can speak with them and for them if indeed we wish to continue to support it. And so I agree with Councillor Wolf's second his referral, but I want more specifics back on it so that we can make an informed decision on that and how it impacts our folks here in Richmond.
Councillor Day.
Mayor Brody, what are you reading from? What report?
I've read from two things. The website for TransLink,
Okay.
which talked about the service delivery and the satisfaction scores, et cetera. And the other thing I read from was the minister mandate letter from the Premier to the Minister of Transportation. Just trying to get a date on this. January 16th of 2025. That's what I read, that what the requirements were.
I think it would have been helpful to the rest of council if they had maybe been forwarded that information prior to this presentation, so we could have been more aware of the reports that are out there. I mean, you had them handy, would have been great to just forward them to the rest of council.
I told you about them. I think you understand them. Okay? All right, anything else? Okay, we'll call the question on the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Motion to rise, no. Motion to rise and report. All those in favor, opposed, carried. And we are now adjourned.